Hi, team. Welcome to 10 Talks. Well, today's conversation is basically Kathy and I unpacking an amazing conversation we had with a UCLA Bruin champion softball player, champion softball coach, and now really a champion just in the world of sports. And she had great words of wisdom. And so be sure and listen to our 10 Talks with Sue and catch up on all those details. Today, Kathy and I are just basically talking about how women win our way. We've got a project coming up. It's all about, we are interviewing. We want to hear from women in sports and business. We want to hear from athletes. Really, what are your winning strategies? How have you become the woman that you are today? So our project is called How Women Win. What we're figuring out is our way. You can go to our website, that's howwomenwin.com. We have a questionnaire. So our way that we're doing this is that we've created 10 questions, and we're asking everybody to pick the questions that really resonate with them. What out of these 10 questions have you lived? Are you figuring out? Are you curious about? So we're having our conversation with guests and they're answering these 10 questions. And we'd love to have you on our journey with us. Go to our website, howwomenwin.com, click on our questionnaire, fill out the questions, and now you're on our journey. And we get to learn from you as well as you learning from us. That's one thing that we know really works well, is learning from each other, being on each other's team. So here we go. We're going to just unpack this conversation that was amazing about how to coach women athletes and how to be a women's coach, maybe coming from being coached by guys and really your mentors being guys, and now entering in to a whole new world. And Sue was beautiful. She's finished coaching in 2006 and said, number one, I would last 45 minutes if I coached the same way that I coach then, that coach now. I love that statement. I really value that, just ability to learn, ability to lead, ability to meet and just to admit our mistakes. And what worked for us in the past doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for us now. And so join us as we think about really, how do we coach women athletes? How do we as female coaches coach with grace? Coach with competitive greatness, honor who we are and figure this out. So Kathy, what did you hear as some winning strategies?
Well, one of the things that I loved, Carlette, that Sue said is that that women athletes have higher expectations for women coaches, that when they say, oh God, we're playing for a woman, it's not working and everything else, she says, I take it as a backhanded compliment because the standards of what they think a coach should be and how a coach should behave and how a coach should relate to them is higher for women than it is the males that they've had before in their lives. And we haven't had anybody put it exactly that way, but I do think, I think she's right. Is there are the expectations. Yes, you're going to coach me. You're going to know about X's and O's. You're going to make me better at what you're doing, but you're also going to take care of me in a way. And, that maybe I would not expect from a male coach, that I'll accept a more transactional method of coaching from him, and I'm not going to accept it from you.
So Kathy, you wrote a book in 2004, which is really how we got together, and that extension of the book. Let me grab that real quick. So here it is, team. Great book. Gender and Competition, How Men and Women Approach Work and Play Differently. So Kathy, that was in 2004 when you started to really, through your field research and everything that, as a woman, as a player, as a coach, as an administrator, you were figuring this out. So why is it that women athletes have a higher expectation for women coaches? Where's that come from?
Well, I believe that the gender life view and paradigm is it's way more, it's enforced within the gender much more than it is across gender. I mean, right. If you think about it, and the way that I've put it is that women don't let other women act like men. Well, men don't let other men act like women. We enforce these behaviors that are expectations. And in sport, we don't even think about them because we're playing on a softball team or we're playing on a volleyball team and it's all of our girlfriends and we've always played maybe in this culture of women and stuff. And so we don't think of a gender culture as its own little microcosm, but it is. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely its own little microcosm. And so, when we hear a woman coach or a male coach say, well, I don't think of myself as a female coach, or I don't think of myself as a male coach, I just think of myself as a coach. Fine. Do you think your athletes don't know that you're male or female? And of course, when you ask somebody that, they just laugh. It's like, well, of course they do. Right. It's like, well, right. So you're in the male or female culture without ever consciously doing it or walking into it or stepping into it. I mean, it's already there. Right. Yeah. And so athletes don't come into a situation with a female coach and go, oh, this is a female coach, I'm going to have higher expectations for her than I had for the guy that I played for before. I don't want to be treated transactionally or anything else. But they already have those expectations from the gender culture that they live in. Yeah. And so now when the coach is cross with you or belittling you or shaming you or all the things that we do as coaches in the interest of motivating, now all of a sudden this feels very personal.
Yeah, it feels like a personal attack, right?
Yes, feels like your best friend calling you fat. Yeah. Or something. It's like, it's just shocking. And you don't know why it hurts deeper or cuts. And this is where gender cultures do play a place and play a role in this.
And so what you're talking about is really an unconscious bias that we have because, we don't know where it comes from. And that's really what got you and I interested in this project is figuring out, number one, how do we support us being women? How do we show up and actually honor who we are rather than trying to be all these different people or, be tough when I don't feel tough, be a yeller when I'm not a yeller, like all this confusing kind of tug of war in our head that goes on, these conversations. And everybody that we've interviewed so far has said one of the winning strategies for being a successful coach or athlete or anything is authenticity. And how do you be authentic to yourself if your self keeps getting rejected or that self that you are isn't being liked and isn't being picked for, the teams that you want or isn't being picked as leader? I mean, it's confusing inside all of this. And so let's start with what Sue did, shared with us. She said it's all about grace. She said the difference from 2006 coaching to 2021 coaching is this state of grace, because giving all of us the ability to be who we are, respect that's who we are, and yet have some clear understandings as to we're going to honor who we are. We're also going to play for this high level of competition and standard that we're going to set, and we're going to figure out how to agree upon it.
Yeah, the words that she used were unmerited acceptance.
Oh,
okay. And I think it's important to look at both sides of those two words. Okay. It's not merited acceptance. Right. It's not you earned my acceptance, love, respect, and everything else. It's that unmerited acceptance. I'm going to accept you. That's the difference between, as she talked about Coach Wooden, you don't have to like everybody, you have to love them. And the love them part of it is I'm going to accept you without you earning it because we're teammates. And because we share this goal.
Don't you think the earning happened to get on the team? So, I mean, that's what, so, the fact that you were recruited, we picked you, this is our team now. So you have earned it. And now inside that earning, we're going to go to work and make everybody better, which is super uncomfortable. And so really having that state of grace and that unmerited, now we're not changing whether, it's not like I like you today because you performed well. Oh, I'm pulling that card off the table. That's that transactional thing that feels like a personal attack. It feels awful that if my performance isn't good enough, you don't still love me. And that hurts.
Yeah, I think that's a part of it also. That's a really good call and a really good distinction. It's not just even about personality.
Right.
It also includes performance. And our you know, I mean, I thought another interesting thing she talked about was, you know, we always talk in sport about raising standards, high standards, high standards, high standards. And she said, you know, in terms of how we deal with each other, there's a certain extent to which we just need to lower our standard. And the standard needs to be, we're going to accept each other because we're on this team together and we come from different backgrounds. We may come from different socioeconomics. We may come to it with very different values. I may be in the gym because I just love my girlfriends here in the gym and I just want to be with them and accepted by them. And you may come into the gym because you want to be an All-American and cut all the warm and fuzzy stuff, set me the ball, get out of my way, you know, and let's win. And, you know, those are both fine. Those are ways to come to the gym. And we're never going to get the two of us on the same page if that's what it means. But we can get the two of us into a very successful team if I'm willing to accept what you're about and you're willing to accept what I'm about. And the coach has to have the emotional intelligence to be able to flow between the two of us with the right motivation and the right words, you know,
and
so that we can
tone
both
and
succeed.
feeling.
The right tone, so that we can, so that the team can succeed.
Yeah, it was really interesting just when we think about this female expectations and the female coaches and how she talked about really that ability to understand that it isn't a personal attack. And I think that is, I think she called it a competitive callus. Wasn't that the term that she used? Is really starting to understand that I can really value being pushed or challenged or out of my comfort zone and take it as a challenge rather than defending myself personally all the time that, you know, I should be this or I should be good enough. And I think that's a very female thing, is inside our head, we are so hard on ourselves. I mean, I can speak for myself. I can do, you know, 10 things well, and I'm thinking about the 2 things that didn't go well. And that's what replays over and over. And, you know, my standard is, dang it, I got to come at this and get better, rather than celebrating and finding some joy in the 10 great things that happened. And what a gift to give us, as that ability to say, yes, we can have high standards and we can lower our expectations, that not everybody's going to have the same standard. So how do we do that?
Yeah, I've heard her speak before, and she didn't say it in this particular podcast, but I know she wouldn't mind if I attribute it to her and repeat it, is she will say, would you want to be friends with your inner voice?
Oh.
And and if you think about it, most of us are much nicer to our friends and our spouses and our children and our employees.
We're strangers. We're nicer to strangers than we are.
Than we are to ourselves. And so it's like, hey, you know, give yourself some slack. But and that's where the competitive callus comes in, I think, too, is that in a practice setting or in a competition, all you know, if you do it enough, is you're going to win and you're going to lose. And a lot of times you're going to lose more than you win in a drill. They're set up for you to fail. The coaches organize them so that it's going to be so hard that you're rarely going to succeed. And so how do you go through that with 2 things? One, not internalizing your own failure and saying, okay, today I'm terrible today, and it's okay. It's one of those days, and I'm terrible. I'm working hard and everything, but whew, missed again. You know, and then you know, not personalize the result. When, I mean, again, one of the things she said, if you got to have an enemy when you're on the bench, on the sideline, make it the coach. Don't make it the other person on the team. Yeah, before you made the decision, you may think a very foolish decision that you're not a starter. And it's like, all right, well, prove the next day that you should be, and that you should be, and that you should be. But it's not the fault of the person who is the starter. And you want to make life so tough on them, that they can't wait to get to a match because they don't have to face you. I thought that was an interesting way to put it too, that they get to relax in a match because it's not going to be as hard as facing you in practice.
Well, and what was so interesting from a competitive perspective is, sometimes women are uncomfortable with competing against their best friends or their teammates, the people that they have grown to love, and they really don't like that battle of, first and second. And she just said it beautifully in terms of do not accept being second or on the bench. Just accept that, you are going to challenge whoever is in front of you every single day. And again, I love, love, love that component to give ourselves the ability to challenge ourselves and to compete for us, not against anyone, right? Like that's the beauty of really setting these champion teams, is that everybody is going hard, and they're not going hard at a teammate. They're going hard at the craft of the sport, and they are figuring out how to be great at it. And by them having that tenacity and that desire, the whole team just goes higher and higher because everyone is going for really pushing each other.
Yeah. But then you have to have that grace with yourself. I mean, it won't work if you're a whole bunch of perfectionists. And every time you're not perfect, it's like, okay, I suck. It won't work. There has to be that level of maybe unmerited acceptance of your own performance.
Yeah. Well, and also, could we take it on as a challenge to be like, how do I get better tomorrow? Or what am I going to do different from that perspective? So that, when I think about the perfectionism, that's a trait that's very hard to change. And so, hearing that I need to change it can stress me out just as much as the ability to not be able to change it. And so, how do I honor, again, getting back to my authentic self? If I'm a perfectionist, okay, how am I going to live with that? How am I going to find joy? How am I going to honor it? How am I going to help myself get better and better every day? And that's what I really appreciate about being female, is just that I want to get better every day. And, I think you called it endless curiosity when we were talking about Sue, in terms of just love her spirit. And team, you want to go on and listen to this podcast. She's beautiful inside out. I mean, her words are so authentic that you can tell this is her story. She's living it. She's going for it. And that's what we want for you. That's what these conversations are about, is we want you to take this conversation and put it into your life, and really start to say, how do I honor who I am? Have that endless curiosity about figuring out, do I like who I am today? Did I like the way that I reacted to a teammate? And that grace gives us the ability to come back and say, I'm really sorry. You know what? I was a jerk. That competition got the best of me. That's not who I really want to be. It shows up constantly, and I'm really sorry about that. And, help me figure out, can you be for me? And so just that ability to be vulnerable. That's another thing she spoke of, is how can we honor our vulnerability and also anchor it in our strengths?
Absolutely. So lots to learn here from our friend Sue Enquist, and definitely a voice worth listening to.
So team, it's up to you. Go out this week, figure out how you win. What are your winning strategies? What do you want to give yourself? How do you want to make peace with really honoring who you are, that authentic self? And again, Kathy and I would love for you to join us on this journey. We want to hear from you. Go to howwomenwin.com. There's a questionnaire, fill out our 10 questions, and we're going to figure this out. That's how women do it. We just get together, have conversations, be in relationship, and figure out how to give hope to other people as well. Thank you, Kathy. Really value you being on the journey with me.
Thank you, Carlette.